Hi, this is David Baumblatt from Terabit Leadership. Appreciate you joining. We're going to be talking about today probably the most important thing in America. And what do I keep talking about? Money. Not saying that I think in terms of leadership money is, but America is a global corporation and nothing seems to move the needle as much as money. That's what we are. We're workers working in a corporation. Donald Trump's the CEO. And at the end of the day, when people are economically prosperous, it's very difficult to argue in many ways that life is good. But if economic difficulties start coming, and I think they are increasingly, particularly in the middle class, it's going to be a hard case to make America's great. And this is not necessarily a gig on Donald Trump. This has been happening for decades and decades with the Republicans and the Democrats, the globalist corporations just ripping us out. So anyway, let's look at some news. But what do I think about Trump's strategy to bring up the economy? It's not going to work. It's not like the Democrats have any better. This ship is going to go down. It's going to get worse. So anyway, let's just take a look at some things to see how is the state of the economy. And this is just one thing this is just a little snippet of another news podcast, and that is young adults moving back into their parents' home. Now, you might say that's embarrassing on them. I'm not going to disagree with you, but it is showing a broader picture. Something's going wrong with our economy.
Need the government to tell you that. One solution. All right, the government says consumer prices are up nearly 4% over the last year through June. But as many stretch their budgets, you probably don't need the government to tell you that. One solution for millions of young adults is to move back home. CBS News national correspondent Jerika Duncan explains.
34-year-old Carly Goodrow appears to be in great shape.
No, I get it. People are going to say, hey, she's a girl. She took this underwater basket. Hey, I'm a traditional guy. She should have found a man, made babies, and got married. But the point is, or people are going to say, listen, she went to college. She got a retarded degree. It's her fault, this and that. I'm not going to necessarily disagree with you, but I still believe this example is in many examples throughout America. I mean, this is a bigger problem. Our economy is not working. And a lot of people, they're going to have problems. Big problems are coming in America.
Shape physically, but financially, it's been a struggle.
This one is just super relatable.
The business coach and content creator has been documenting the ups and downs.
I am 34 years old. I just moved back in with my parents for a few months with my 2 golden retrievers.
So this is the room.
This is the room.
And then this is the workspace.
This is my office. It looks terrible right now.
When you think about what you imagined for your life at 34, was it this?
No, definitely not. What are you doing?
Before moving back home, Carly says she was living with her boyfriend in South Carolina on a $60,000 a year salary. But after they broke up, she couldn't afford to pay rent alone.
To be able to afford that on top of like your student loans, a car payment, it's really hard to function off of anything, I believe, like less than $85K.
According to Realtor.com, a record 25.2 million adults under 35 were living with their parents in 2025. That's more than any point on record, including the COVID-19 pandemic peak.
Society as a whole has to respond.
Wharton School of Business professor Susan Wachter has been studying this trend.
It's affordability across the board. It's not just price of the home and the mortgage.
You ready to show me?
Carly's parents say they welcome the full house. 4 adults, 4 dogs, crossing paths once again.
Carly's 33-year-old brother Kyle was already living at home before his sister arrived, but there is some good news to report. Carly says she has been able to save enough money to comfortably move out by November. Jerika Duncan.
Yeah, not sure if there's going to be a good story for everyone. So now you got her brother living there too. And who knows, where there's good, there's bad. I think a lot of women are going to realize when their economic difficulties really hit, having a strong man to provide for, meaning having them relook at traditional values, probably will. The problem is are they going to be finding a man who's going to be able to provide for them? Why? Well, just like the case with her brother is also living at home with her parents. I think a lot of men are also. One of the reasons I've said many times, one of the reasons why there's a population decline, particularly in the Western countries like America, is financial viability of starting a family, buying a home, raising kids. It takes money. So as we deplete the middle class, you don't think there's a reason that could be a key variable in terms of why people aren't starting families? Need money. So again, we get it. I get it. It was, I don't know, maybe from a liberal media. Some people were looking at the girl. She's kind of this whorish girl who goes on the internet and stuff like that. She deserves not to have a job or whatever. But here's another one from Don Lemon from CNN. Not like I'm a fan of him, but what do we try to do? We focus on the truth. And what's Don talking about? He's talking about Americans more and more leaving America. And as an American who left America, oh, I do see that. I see more and more. But I've said before, the Americans that I knew that left in 2010 are different than the ones leaving now. Ones leaving now, they're hurting. I mean, they're like, this is a sinking ship, and they are really looking at economic survivability, meaning like now there's a lot more retirees or those on a strict pension, and they're just not going to be able to live any type of quality life in America. So they're looking for these lower cost of living countries in the world where there's social security or pension. So it is more of a desperate move of a sinking ship, but more and more Americans leaving America. Absolutely. If you go look past Don Lemon, not like, again, I'm a fan of him, but just look at the facts. It's happening. More and more Americans are leaving. And the question is why? You know, before you attack America, I get all the time, before you attack Americans is you left America, you're a traitor. Why don't we start asking the question why? Why are they leaving? Maybe there's a bigger problem. Maybe one day if you don't answer that problem, maybe you're going to be leaving America too one day. I think it's time to look at what this problem is.
Leaving the United States and moving here. Okay, so wait a minute. For the first time since the Great Depression, more Americans are leaving the United States and moving here. And I'm not talking about immigrants. I'm talking about Americans packing up, heading to places like Portugal, Spain, Ireland, and even Germany. And look,
he's speaking absolute correct here in terms of the stats. It's exponentially increasing. And to include now, I focus more on Asia, particularly Southeast Asia, because it has a very low cost of living where in fact, I believe, I need to research the statistics again. I believe Malaysia is the #1 place now in the world for Western expats to retire there. But it's also happening in Europe as well. People are going to places that offer a quality lifestyle and affordability. Portugal, Spain, Southern Italy, like that. It's happening more and more. You and as American, is this a problem? Maybe not. Maybe you're an American, so I could care less. Let them leave. Okay, maybe so. We'll see how it goes.
this isn't about a political food fight at all. This is not an opinion. This is data. The Census Bureau is saying this. The Brookings Institution is saying this. The bigger question is why is
Yeah, Shane, I see Shane's comment. I gotta mention this. Shane's talking about falling down. It's been on the back of my mind many times. I don't even remember falling down. Was it 1991? I'm just taking a guess. I thought it was a cool movie, but because remember, I didn't have these notions of America falling. If you read my book and everything, I said 2005, my first year in the FBI. And of course, I was in the military. I started seeing it, but it wasn't until 2005 until I began to think this system is going down versus going up. So going back to the movie Falling Down, I thought it was a cool movie. But when I saw it, yeah, I mean, there were parts that clicked with me. But I wasn't on board of falling down like America's falling down, the white man. I was woke back then. I was like, yeah, us white men were kind of racist, stuff like that. So I remember the movie. I thought it was cool. But I'm telling you, I think a really good interview is I would love to talk with the directors and the producers. I assume it wasn't based on a book. Who thought of that idea? Why? I think they were ahead of their time. I think they were ahead of their time. Go back. Now, people, I'm sure there's on the show, I don't know, not many people watch me, but there could be some black people who watch and this and that. And they say, David, why you focus always on the white man? Well, I mean, who created America? This was created by the white man. You don't hear white men saying we created Africa. So that falling down, if you replace the white man, his testosterone, his patriotism, everything, you think we're going to have America in numbers? So, the movie focused on that white man. And I really think what a movie looking back now that really looked at. Because what did I keep saying in my predictions? The fall of America, the fall of the West, is a microcosm of the fall of who? The white man. As the white man gets weaker, as the white man, in terms of his numbers, gets smaller, as his economic might, his political, what do you think is going to happen to the West? But it's interesting. I really need to go back to that movie and find some snippets of Falling Down. But like I said, I watched it, I liked it, but I never really put together this symbology of this is truly the future of America. Because like I said, when I was in high school and I was in West Point, never really crossed my mind that. But I think that movie Falling Down, whoever thought of that or whatever, maybe ahead of our time.
Is that happening? Why are so many people looking at America and then thinking their future might be somewhere else?
I'm 48. I'm a registered nurse. I live in St. Pete, Florida, and I am leaving the United States to move to Thailand this September.
I'm telling you, I see it now. Again, I can't verify for Europe, except on the internet. I see on the internet, and sometimes I do hear expats talking between the others. But in terms of Asia, in fact, I think I told you this other story. When I worked for Amazon, I still remember this. I was on a business trip in Tokyo at the Amazon office, and I took a break. And Japan's phenomenal. If I was fluent in the Japanese language, I can make Japan my home. So I was just there on a business trip, and I was walking outside. I think I told you the story, and I saw a T-shirt, United States Air Force. White guy. Let's face it, this is Japan. Not many white guys walking around. And I said, hey, former military? He's like, yeah. And we talked about it. I said, what are you doing here? I was just there on a business trip. And he's like, I married a Japanese wife. I've always said, if you're going to go Asian, go Japanese. He's got 2 mixed kids. I've got my own opinion about mixed kids. It's another story, but whatever. He had 2 mixed kids, and he was raising them originally in America. But of course, his wife is Japanese, so the whole visa. And him and his wife totally agreed. They said, and this was years ago. This was like almost 10 years ago. He's like, we're out of America. He goes, that place is falling apart. And he goes, my wife is Japanese. He goes, we want to raise our kids in Japan. Oh, he's 100% right. 100% right. I mean, if I was a fluent Japanese speaker, I can make Japan my home. It's happening. It's happening all throughout Asia, where you're seeing Westerners leave there, go there for many reasons. But one is economics. But you're going to see this more and more. Part of the reason, too, is why I'm being censored is it's not like I'm purposely doing this, but my story is very, very negative to the facade that the Republicans, the Democrats, Fox News, and CNN, everything want to do, and that's America's falling down. And also, there's a difference between promoting guns and ammo and predicting a guns and ammo. I'm telling you, guns and ammo are coming to America. It's not like I'm promoting it. It's different. I'm predicting it. It's going to get violent.
When did we decide that it was time to leave the United States? I get this question a lot, and I wish that there was just one aha moment where I knew for sure it was time to go. Unfortunately, it was much more of a slow burn. It's going to be a very different United States for my kids' generation than it was for me growing up. I don't know how we would afford college for 3 kids in the United States, if I'm being fully honest. I was worried about gun violence every single day. And all of these little things, I think, something clicked in the early summer where I was like, oh, this is irreparable damage, or at least damage that's probably not going to be fixed in my lifetime. And that's ultimately what pushed us to do it. Just not feeling like there was a great future for our kids if we stayed in the United States.
I hear it all the time. People are not happy with living in the United States. They want to move. There's tons of people that want to stay and fight for freedom and fight for what this country.
Yeah, and again, people look at me and people don't get my story. There are some people who are like, oh, now you're whining like a baby that you want to go back to America. And I never said that. or they're like, now you're bad mouthing America. All I'm saying is if I never go back to America for the rest of my life again, I'm fine. And I want to defend America too. People ask me overseas, they're like, what do you think about America? And I'm absolutely honest about this. I say, are you rich? Do you have a lot of money? I truly believe, if you notice Donald Trump and Mar-a-Lago, if you are a high net worth person, I think America's great. Private schools, private hospitals, private security, private gated communities. Yeah, I think America is still an awesome country. But what do I keep saying? This economic system that continues to push the wealth in more and more of the 1%, and yes, this is a kumbaya statement. I've been accused of being a racist and a white supremacist, but this 1%, this is where people can unite. The black guy, the white guy, the lesbian girl, the girl, meaning we're all getting just marginalized out of the equation, meaning the middle class. And this 1% group, this is not capitalism anymore. It's not. You call it whatever you want, but this system's going to go down. But I do defend America. If you're a high net worth individual, we'll just say a rich person, yeah, I think America's go there. But I'm telling you, this concept of freedom, what do I keep saying? Money and freedom have a relationship. If you don't have the means, meaning the economic means, then you're not going to have as much freedom as you think to start a business, to go to college. Yes, money correlates to that. And so as the economic disparity increases in America, your level of freedom, like options, are going to decrease. So this part about we're the land of freedom, I mean, we don't even freedom of speech anymore. Me as a military veteran, I find it a joke, our military veteran, I don't know, what are we fighting for? We don't have freedom of speech. But I still defend America. If you're a high net worth person, I totally can believe a high net worth in saying, let's face it, when we talk about the system collapsing, if you're in the top 1%, you will totally disagree with me. You'll say, listen, David, I disagree with you. Whatever this system is doing, I want it to keep doing that because I'm becoming a billionaire, a trillionaire. So to the top 1%, this system is working out very well for them. And so I would agree. They would disagree with me and say, no, I disagree. This system's doing great. But I think more and more Americans, meaning the 99% more, realize this system's not working. I've said many times, even with me, with the lawsuit that I had with Boeing in China and America, this legal system's not working. But I do defend America. If you're a high net worth person, I totally can believe a Vivek Ramaswamy saying, I'm an immigrant and America's great. Not necessarily going to argue with it. He's a multimillionaire. Number two, people say, oh, I really want to go back to America. I changed my mind. I don't know where they got that. Maybe they misread me. I was doing fine overseas. I wanted to be left alone. People don't understand. When you're on an FBI terrorist watch list, your passport gets flagged. A lot of damages happen. But if I would never be able to go back to America again, I still would like to visit my family a couple times. But even that, but if they said you will never go back to America, I'm fine. Things work out. As a military veteran, I find it unconstitutional, illegal, and immoral, but that's fine. But anyway, like I said, I still will defend America. If you're a high net worth person, I believe America is a great place to live.
They believe should be. And then there's a lot of people that are saying they don't want to fight, they're leaving, it's not worth the battle, or they just don't believe that any change can be made. People are really packing their bags and leaving. More and more videos are coming out about it.
So I moved out of America for the first time in my life 7 months ago. And all my friends from home now would say I've gotten really liberal since moving to Europe. But the truth is, I've just left America for the first time in my life and started seeing reality. And the truth is, we're being lied to our entire life. Amsterdam is where I live now. Everyone thinks it's like,
you know, and I want to mention this. This reminds me a little when I worked in the intelligence community, particularly in the FBI. I said this many times. If you think in the military, we joke about the Navy SEALs. I think the Navy SEALs are some of the most overrated bullshit artists around. But I think people know how egotistical the Navy SEALs are. If you think the Navy SEALs have an ego, you have no clue with the FBI because they are the most powerful agency arresting this out. The ego in the FBI is crazy. So I want to relate it because it reminded me of that because you don't know what you have until you leave it and you can compare. It's like, hey, I work at Pepsi-Cola and it's the best company ever. How many companies have you worked for? None, only Pepsi-Cola. I don't know, maybe you want to work for Coca-Cola or IBM or something else. So you can compare. Well, in the intelligence community, it gets even more like a cult. It was a very like cult environment. And the FBI is just, their ego is through the roof. And so they live that. They truly believe they are the modern version of Batman. And I even defend the FBI that some people want to absolutely defund them zero, like abolish them. I'm not going to support that, but I'm not going to fight you. You want to abolish them, who cares? But the point being is I definitely think they need to be defunded rapidly, 50% fired. But anyway, because they're in that cult environment, and a lot of them went there because it's the best paycheck they could get. It's a paycheck. But until you leave, and I left, it's hard to explain. It was much different in the bureau than it was in the military. It's this cult. And once you leave, you see another world. Now, I'm not saying the FBI is bad. There's some people like it, but it's the same thing with America. So one people will say, hey, David, I'm telling you right now, America is the best country on earth. Okay, but I just have a logical question. Have you lived in another country? And if so, if a person can say, I'm telling you right now, Australia sucks and America's better because I lived 10 years in Australia and I also lived in America, that now we're working. Now we've got some logic. So I'm just saying, I consider myself a very international person. I speak multiple languages. I've lived a lot both in Europe and in Asia. All I'm saying is I still believe America is a top tier country. It's on the decline, but you'd be surprised. There's other countries out there that Americans, if they leave, they'd say, it's not as bad as I thought. And of course, if it's not, then go back to America. You know, it's a free world. But I do see that. It reminded me of the Bureau that once I left, I really didn't have any regrets. I just wanted that fresh air and to see something new. But I see that too with Americans. I think the statistic is only 5% of Americans have passports. So I'm just trying to use critical thinking. Before you say America is the best country on earth, a very logical question is, have you lived in another country? And if you haven't, I mean, it doesn't mean a definite. Maybe you research with friends on the internet, on movies, and that's indirect intelligence, and that helps. But definitely, if you physically lived in another country for, I don't know, a couple years, 2 years, 3 years, maybe, that could give you more. And then at the end of the day, if you said, nah, I don't like this country, I want to go back to America, then you're even stronger. Then you could say, I have lived in other countries, and I'm telling you, America, the best country, and more power to you. I'm just personally saying I don't really miss America, and this is not a slight on America, but I'm fine. It's just there's a big world. There's a lot of things out there. I see some questions. Let's keep doing the video, and then I'll go to answer them.
Like the drug capital of the world, there are no crackheads in Amsterdam. Zero crackheads. You got some alcoholics, but no crackheads. You know why? There's no crack. Other thing, prices in the supermarket are like less than half of what I was used to in New York. Now, I don't mean to sound so like negative and like America. I'm very proud to have been born and raised in New York. But my message today is the propaganda machine you were fed is so much louder than you realize.
Also, I just want to point out, people also say you left America, you're a traitor. You have to remember, our founding fathers left Europe. Why? Well, I think it's human nature. Sometimes you want to be living where you feel like you're treated with respect and a quality life. So there was something with our founding fathers that said, you know something, we believe we'll have a better life in the new America. I focus on the new America, not today's America, in the new America. Were they traitors for leaving Europe? I wouldn't say. Now, were they traitors for the Revolutionary War? Technically, they were. That's why they were great leaders, because if they would have lost, they would have been hung, executed as traitors. But we're just focusing on what about our European fathers or my ancestors? In 1850, they left Bavaria, Germany. Would they be considered traitors to Germany? In 1850, they said, we want to go to America. This is life, people. What are we, North Korea? It's weird. I have a West Point buddy. He actually bought one of these Caribbean citizenships. I think it was like about $200,000, $250,000. Gave up his American citizenship because he was tired of paying taxes overseas. He's never going back. And he warned me. He goes, David, they think I'm a piece of shit, the government. Now, he's a West Point graduate, special operations, former Green Beret, honorably served. He just wants to live overseas. He was tired of, because the American citizenship is very different than other citizenships. You have to pay taxes for the rest of your life, no matter where you live in the world, even if you make zero income from America, which he wasn't. And he's like, why am I going to pay American taxes for the rest of my life when I'm not even going to live in America or working? He was just tired of it. So he's like, I'm going to give up my American citizenship. I'm going to get a, he bought one of these Caribbean, he doesn't care anymore. And I got to admit, living overseas, and I see all these anchor babies from China, I've said this before, this citizenship doesn't mean that much to me. This is another reason why I've changed. I've become so much racial. Why? Because gender and race, you can't really change that. Your citizenship, now it used to be hundreds of years ago, people don't change citizenships. Now, people are like what I just talked about, my friend. You could buy citizenship. You could be an anchor baby, which I do support Trump abolishing birthright citizenship. But you get my point. All these people now, they have these citizenships. And I don't feel like, especially in China, when I see all these anchor babies, I mean, I could do stories on these anchor babies, what it's doing. We're brothers and sisters. We're fellow Americans. Don't really see it. But it goes back to my point about Americans, about when he warned me, he's like, they're going to hear you left America and they're just going to call you a piece of shit. These are fellow Americans telling a military veteran that I just want to, like, what are we, North Korea? What, you can't leave? Like, what is this mentality? Because like I said, our founding fathers left Europe. Do we look at them as traitors for leaving Europe? I mean, not really. They just left Europe. They thought there'd be a better life for them in the new America. Think they succeeded. But guess what? Where's the future of America? Now, if you're in the top 1%, makes all sense in the world. America's doing very good. But if you're in the middle class or whatever, you're getting absolutely destroyed. And so, well, what am I just going to be shit on the rest of my life and say that? I mean, that's what leadership is about. Just take it. What do I keep saying? Lead, follow, or get out of the way. And the only two options of get out of the way that I think of is either you leave the country or you stay in the country, but you say go off the grid. You go on a farm, you don't pay taxes, you have your own electricity, you're farming, so you're just out of it. And you're like, I'm just going to ride the storm, and that's getting out of the way. You're going to move to Wyoming or Colorado, or maybe even go to Canada, even though it's technically leaving the country. But you're going to live an off the grid lifestyle, or you're going to leave the country. That is an option, people. I know people, I say this and they say that's not leadership. Well, then I guess West Point's wrong. This is exactly what's taught at West Point. It's called lead, follow, or get out of the way. Meaning get out of the way is how many times you're trying to do a problem and someone just pokes their nose in. You're trying to solve a problem and someone is being a pain in the ass. And then you look at them and say, listen, are you going to be part of the solution? And they're not. They just keep arguing. And sometimes the best thing they could do is shut the fuck up and get out of the way. You're bothering us. We're trying to work on a solution. So that's what I'm saying. So I left. Perhaps there's people in America, haven't really seen them yet, was enchanted with Trump initially, disenchanted drastically now, but maybe there's other people that are working on a solution. I've really heard it. So you get out of the way and let them do it. But getting out of the way is a leadership. But I'd say is either you leave the country or you stay in the country, but you get off the grid and you get out of the way. Lead and follow, we'll go into it later. But like I said, I've just found it very interesting when people leave America, there's this anger. What do I think it is? I don't want to change the subject, but it's this anger with white people, right? This hatred. What happens with white people? Well, it starts out with jealousy, it goes to anger, and it goes to hatred. That's the whole deal. I mean, white people were the least racist people on earth. Just is. When you travel the world, you'll see that. Why is you have this anger against white people? Maybe there's a jealousy. Maybe that jealousy turns into anger, and maybe goes into hatred. This is Psychology 101. What about when people leave America? Have you ever worked for a shitty corporation and you hate your job? And Joe says, dude, I got a new job. I'm quitting this corporation tomorrow. I'm going to make more money, and it's in Hawaii and this and that. You're not telling me there's some coworkers that say, you bastard, right? Where other people say, hey, man, more power to you. Same thing when I left the FBI. People don't quit the FBI. You quit the FBI, it is such, I was warned about this. They're like, you got to be very careful. So when I left the country, you don't think there's Americans, because let's face it, a lot of Americans say, David, I'm telling you right now, I'm going to never leave the country. Well, you can't, okay? It's the same thing when someone says, I'm a peaceful person. Unless you're capable of doing violence, you can't say you're a peaceful person, because if you're capable of violence, then you take your judgment and you choose nonviolence, and you could say you're a peaceful person. But if you're not capable of doing violence in the first place, then you can't say you're a peaceful person. Back to leaving the country. Leaving a country is very difficult. It takes money, it takes resources, it takes ingenuity, know-how. A lot of Americans, unfortunately, you could say, are not even in that position to leave America. So if they say, I'm telling you something, David, I was born in America, I'll die here, and I'm never going to leave like you traded. Well, technically, I don't think you could ever leave, so I'm not even going to talk to you. Now, if you're a person of, we'll just say, of means to leave America, and you chose not to, which there's nothing wrong with that, then you're in a different boat. You could say, you know something, David, I can leave America, but I chose to stay. Yeah, no problem. I mean, stay in America, I don't have a problem with that. But the point is, maybe this hatred they have for Americans leaving, maybe it's from those who can't leave. And there's jealousy, anger, and hatred. You may think, David, you're blowing this out of proportion. You don't realize how much hate mail I get from Americans. So, fuck you, left America. And I've warned by this. And you ask expat Americans, they say it's the same. There's something going on in this. And what do I think? I think it comes from a lot of Americans who actually want to leave America, but they realize they can't. And misery loves company. Just something. We'll go back to the video and I'll look at the questions here quick.
And the world is so much bigger than your hometown and what the media tells you.
Quitting my job and leaving the U.S. was literally the best decision I have ever made. I think the old American dream that they sold us in the 50s, 60s, 70s is dead. The new American dream is peace and rest and financial stability. And a lot of times you can't get that with the house that they tell you got to get the house with the picket fence, white picket fence, or whatever. A lot of times you can't get that. Financial stability means renting an apartment, then that's what it means. If peace means taking a break from America, then that's what it is. It's not really just like, oh, the American dream is no longer the American dream. It's the fact that you can barely breathe. Like, you really can't take time off work without worrying about bills. And then when you leave the house, you spend $100 minimum. And I feel like I did everything right. Excuse me, I just left the gym. I feel like I did everything right. Like, I went to school, got multiple degrees, got the house, got the car, you know, the American dream, got married, but I just wasn't happy. I just didn't want to participate in a life in America anymore. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do to take a break in life.
I think maturing is realizing that the end goal is actually to get out of the U.S., make your money in the U.S.
He said he hit the book. I cannot tell you how many Americans, remember I saw Americans with the means, how many Americans who are, whether it's their business, whether it's investments, they are waiting, desperately waiting until they achieve some type of financial independence. And do you know what one of their main goals is? Leave America. It is so, which goes back to my same point. A lot of people can't leave America. It's very difficult. But if you have money, let's face it, and it goes back to America with freedom. You know, America's a land of freedom. Well, if you're poor, it's difficult to have freedom. But when Americans do get money, and now you have options, what is one of the biggest options coming more and more? Leave. And they want to take that money. And also they're looking to take that money to a place, another country that treats them good and also minimizes their taxes. Because they don't want this government to take their tax. Remember the Patriot? I love America. Oh yeah, you wait. These Americans, and I don't blame them. I don't blame them. Meaning these new wealthy Americans do not want the American government out to tax their money. So they're like, and let's face it, patriotism is dead in America. It's okay if you say, David, I got to be honest with you, I don't support military veterans. You're not going to have any argument from me, people. Part of the answer to the solution is we have to admit there's a problem. We're not patriots anymore. Patriotism is dead in America. It's about making money. It's individualism. The government doesn't care about us. We don't care about them. It is what it is. But you'll see more and more Americans, when they get financial freedom or independence, what's one of the first things they want to do? Literally, it's high on their list. Leave America and get to a country that has a better quality of life and also better, we'll just say, tax regimes for their money, where they don't want to pay all the money to America. That's pretty interesting, people. We'll see where this goes. I think it's going to keep getting worse and worse.
And then get out, bro. Like this place is just horrible, bro. Like the food is poisonous. Like, bro.
Well, I keep saying, you know what America reminds me of? It's a corporation. I mean, has anyone worked for these corporations? If you're senior management in these corporations, I've got many friends working for Google and Facebook and all these top companies. Yeah, life is good. You know, when you're a senior director and vice president, but you'd be surprised. And this was the lie to the feminists, these women. Like, I want independence like a man. I want to get a job and work for the corporations. I'm telling you, it sucks. It's not as good as you think. Trust me, to a lot of women, they would rather be at home, taking care of children with a man and not having to deal with the bullshit that men put up in the corporate world. It's not that fun. But if you're high on the list of senior management, money does amazing things in terms of quality of life. But let's face it, most people aren't at that top. And I'm telling you, these corporations suck. So when he talks about what's America like, it sounds like a lot like a corporation. And if most people are at that middle, lower level in a corporation, not as fun as you think.
Everything's trying to kill you. Government is corrupt. Like, this country's cooked, bro. We gotta get out.
We've made a year that we have been living outside of America, and it feels so great. Like, it's such a huge accomplishment to say that we are successfully living abroad. And I just had to come out here and tell y'all that the journey, although we've had our ups and downs, has been a complete blessing. Like, I'm gonna say this over and over again. This was the best decision that we have ever made. And when we got on those planes, when we got on that plane, when we bought those tickets, we just felt like a big boulder being lifted off of me and my husband's back. And just knowing that we can give our children a better version of us was just so, yeah, it's just beyond words can really explain. Yeah, y'all, August 2nd of 2025, we left America and we are never going back, because we found out that we don't even have to go back to renew the children's passports. So it has just been an amazing journey. Like, we've been to Jamaica since we left America. We've been to Jamaica, Taiwan, Malaysia, Vietnam, and Thailand. We've been to 5 countries that we would have never been able to go to if we were still living there. Beautiful, beautiful countries. And I'm just so excited for what's new to come.
North America is a giant scam. This is what $1,500 a month gets me in Thailand. I left because the math just stopped mathing. Back home, we work all month just to survive. Rent, insane. Food, expensive. And the weather, terrible. Half the year is depressing. Out here in Thailand, I pay $450 a month for my rent.
My family moved from the U.S. to Panama City, Panama in January. We are currently back in the States visiting. And I feel like now is a very appropriate time for me to kind of just speak on how I know we were supposed to move to Panama. Kind of just give like some basic comparisons, starting off with my gut health and my nervous system. Within 2 days of being back in the U.S., and don't get me wrong here, I don't dislike or hate the U.S. I appreciate the opportunities. I love the fact that I can come back whenever I want. And then of course, my family and friends are here. However, within 3 days of being back here, my migraines were back, my gut issues were back, bloating, constipation, and I didn't come back and, you know, just start eating crazy or eating any differently than I did when we were in Panama. And no matter how much I take my time here, I still feel like everything is so rushed. It's not me rushing, but like just everyone around me is in a hurry. The amount of money we've spent since we've been back. So we've been back for a couple of weeks now. But within our first week back in the US, we spent more in that week than we would spend in a month in Panama. And this isn't splurging on anything crazy. Like, we have quite literally just been purchasing our essentials because we spent a week at our best friend's house. So it's not like we had to spend money on Airbnbs or hotels. And then this week we're at my in-laws. So we're not spending money on accommodations. It's quite literally just like gas, groceries, toiletries, things of that nature. And I got my nails done, which was another reality check because I could have sworn that the nail prices in Panama and the nail prices in the States were quite similar, but they're not. It's like 25-ish dollars more here, $25 to $30. I could have got the same set done in Panama for like $50. And these are all our vehicle because we don't have a car.
Okay, so definitely, and there's more stories like that. I'll do quick answers. First, Peter Schiff. I agree with Peter Schiff. I don't know his whole story, but one, he talks about a major economic reckoning is coming. Not going to disagree with that. He talks about gold as a key investment, 100%. I've become much more into gold too, living overseas. You're seeing again, we'll do another channel on the economic, but what you're seeing is I hear, again, this should probably be in a different episode, but we'll just start a little bit because now I'm on Peter Schiff. The world is splitting into two spheres. We know this by now: BRICS, China, Russia, spheres. The internet is splitting. There's looking to be two different global financial systems. And I'm not quite sure which one's going to lead, but I mean, I'm still saying America's going down, and maybe you want to bet both. But let's first talk about gold. Now, gold is still a heavy investment in the West, but in the BRICS, it is huge. I cannot tell you how much. Now, people are saying, yeah, but Russia is selling their gold. I personally believe Russia is selling their gold because they need the money for the war. I don't think people understand what. And also, I'm doing another tangent here. People are looking at how many soldiers are dying with Russia. What did I say before in America? What if a military draft was done in America for Iran? It would be zero. The point being, they are doing a military draft. There's so many people dying, though. It's amazing that they're still fighting this war. So I believe Russia's selling gold for finances. They need the money. But generally speaking, across BRICS, the demand for gold, in fact, you probably know this already, but gold now has replaced the US dollar as the global reserves for central banks. So gold is number one, where it used to be US dollars, treasury bonds. It's gold. So I think anyone that's giving financial advice, not like this financial, but if you don't have gold in some type of investment, I think that could be very, not very smart move. I'm a very heavy gold advocate. And why? Let's face it, it's been around for thousands of years. It's always been a unit of store of value, especially during times of unpredictability, chaos, and that. But in terms of the BRICS and the other financial system, gold is booming. You're going to see gold hit record numbers. The West is going to do something more in terms of the crypto, where they're going. And this is where you're talking about more Bitcoin and XRP, where they're going there. And it's interesting to see these two systems. And people think that the crypto is going to be aligned to BRIC. It's not. I'm telling you now, what the BRICS are going to do is they are going to be using blockchain because, and again, I'm going to stop here because I don't want this is another channel, but we got to remember there's a difference between blockchain, think of it like the internet for finance, financial transactions, and cryptos, which would be like Google, Yahoo, Netscape, like all the providers. There's a lot. Some win, some lose. But the internet, the internet brought us together. I mean, I think everyone would agree that the internet has changed the world. Maybe for negative people. Some people think social media is harming us. But I do think the internet was just an unbelievable invention. That's blockchain, and that's coming. And so the BRICS will use blockchain. They are absolutely going to adopt blockchain. The West is going to adopt blockchain. But in terms of the financial value, gold is much more heavily stacked in BRICS, where in the West, it still is, but it's more crypto. I mean, let's face it, we got President Trump launching his shit coins. Now, am I against crypto? I'm not against crypto, but I'm telling you, you better watch it. And what's more of the safer bet? Oh, it's gold. I mean, gold is a much more. But there's going to be people, sort of like a gambling casino, that are going to win big on crypto. But if you're like, listen, I'm not into a gambling casino. I want a very conservative hedge against the risk. It's called gold, people. Been around. When we do that, smart security talking about what's the maximum global population. Many times I think the forces of nature will work that out. But this is also why I'm against refugees allowing into the countries, meaning, well, let's face it, we have population issues in the West of not being able to repopulate ourselves, particularly the white population. So if we allow these countries, I mean, we'll just say starving people in Africa or, whatever, it's just an example, is maybe their ecosystem, every country has their own ecosystem, maybe allow their ecosystem to adjust according to the laws of nature. Our ecosystem is not allowed to adjust. Why? Because as much as Trump is against illegal immigration, which I totally support, he wants to ban birthright citizenship, guess what? When it comes to legal immigration, he's in for it. So we have these people coming in here and it just diverts the ecosystem in terms of how that's supply and demand. Like, for instance, most people don't know, but survival of the fittest, that word, it sounds Darwinism. It sounds military. That was an economic term by a scholar from England. That is purely about economics. Those who have money will repopulate, have children. Those who don't have money are not going to have a wife and kids. So there's an economic correlation, we all know this, to having families versus a guy that's unemployed working or working at McDonald's. He's going to have problems having a child. So what's that point? Well, now we have people in America that, when we're going to look at the native population, let's face it, these are white people and they're economically struggling, but yet we're going to take our tax money and we're going to help out refugees or legal immigration. Most people don't know, there's another tangent, but the bubonic plague that wiped out much of Europe, who won in that? The workers, not the capitalists. So maybe if we didn't allow legal immigration into America, then the supply of labor will shrink because we don't have immigrants, and then labor will have more power to negotiate with capital, the management, to say we want higher salaries. The labor has been wiped out, the middle class. Why? You have no leverage. You think your job is not getting paid enough? I'm going to get the Mexicans to do it for you cheaper. I'm going to get the Indians. This is Donald Trump too. So the part being is I know I'm doing a tangent here about, well, you're talking about population, but I would say one thing is you have to contain your ecosystem. We don't. And I say we, I'm talking about Western countries. Western countries are the only countries that have very porous borders. And yeah, it's either from the left, these are wacky people who like illegal immigration, but it's also from the right. They love cheap labor. And as long as that border continues to flow in there, we don't have an ecosystem to naturally balance the population. And that's why we're going to get marginalized more and more. Whereas these other countries, for whatever reason, if we continue to support them, then they're going to continue to live in a handicapped fashion. Maybe if we don't support them, and I say that, why? Why are we spending our tax money there, spending it in America? Then their ecosystem will just learn to adjust. Maybe they're not going to be able to have as many children there. It's a long story, we'll go, but let's keep going to the next one. This is just showing the hardship in America, and I'm telling you, when this hardship comes, you're going to start seeing more and more pissed off Americans. And I feel for these people. I'll do a little commentary on this issue, because living overseas, we don't really have this issue of tipping. We know what we tell you, you're at a restaurant, tipping. Here's my view on tipping.
Cheap ass mother. $2 I got this goddamn fucking order, man. $2, cheap ass motherfucker. Cheap ass motherfucker, bitch! Not tipping motherfucker!
Come in. You can come get it. We're not delivering for no tips today. Come get it from your car? You're gonna have to come to the store. Pick it up.
Are you supposed to pay me? I paid you the app. It says 0. It says that you left nothing. Supposed to tip? Yeah. I did. Can I have my food?
Mommy! She just brought the food on the ground! Oh, are you tipping or? No. Okay, so maybe next time just don't get delivery. Just do the order. Pick it up.
Yeah, I have a DoorDash for a broke boy. Here's a tip. If you can't tip, then don't order delivery.
I'm sorry, I have to take that back because it just canceled my order. That's fine, they're refunding it. Okay. I'm keeping this. I have to take that. Get off. You're not me. I'm not going to have my fucking money.
You thought you was eating? Should've gave me a tip. I'm taking your food, I'm petty as shit. You gonna hate me when you see this? I hated you for having to drive all the way the fuck over here and then give me a tip.
You're so bad.
I got your pizza.
Hey, I'm so sorry. My hands were wet. I was washing dishes. Do you mind coming in for a few minutes?
Why?
I have to.
All right, so I'll answer your questions. Here's my view on tipping. First of all, I don't like the idea of having to tip. I think it's awkward. Other countries just meaning the corporations are paying these people so less, they want us to supplement their tip, maybe pay them a higher wage. And some people say, well, if that happens, David, we're going to have to raise the price on the food. Then I guess you're going to have to raise the price on the food. But I get it. This tipping is so awkward. Did I tip too high? Did I tip too low? I don't like it. Other countries don't have it. Just mark it in the food, mark it in the price, mark it in their salary, and let's get tipping out. But the reason I agree with these door people, and again, they don't have a right. I mean, I know it sounds weird. I mean, they could argue, but if a person doesn't want to tip you, well, go fuck yourself. Sorry about it. But I do feel for these people. They're probably working crappy jobs. They're not making enough money and they hate it. What I would say is taking your anger out on the customers, it's not it. It's these corporations. They are just, because we're living in a world in America where our corporations, senior managements, continue to make record profits. They're getting richer and richer. And yet, why is the lower level, the workers, why are we struggling? Something's wrong with this. So I would just say, get out tipping. It's a very awkward social thing. Did I tip too much? Did I tip too low? This and that. Two, I'm not going to have the server look at me and say, you have to tip. Go fuck yourself. I'm the customer and I'm king. But let's just solve this. Let's just, I don't know, put a percentage. And I know that probably is going to mean that they're going to raise the price of food. Well, then guess what? That people aren't going to buy food anymore on this. And you see where it's sparking. In terms of, let me go back to a couple things. In terms of Peter talking about a revolution, I've said many times, we're going to go to guns and ammo. I'm sure a lot of people are very uncomfortable in stuff. Think about this. Out of all the, and it's becoming more and more mainstream where people are talking about the possibility of a violence. So it's going to happen, people. You like it or not, this is going to go to guns and ammo. We're talking economic despair and violence are going to go hand in hand. It's going to happen. Spar and Secure in terms of the population again, like I said, I remember when I was at Harvard, which is very liberal, by the way. I mean, everyone probably knows this. And they always talked about the world population, we're becoming overpopulated. We need to stop having children. On paper, it makes sense. When you look at the white population, though, that doesn't make any sense. I mean, the white population is dropping. The other populations are doing overly well. And so my thing is maybe we need to stop allowing the immigrants into the West, because I'm telling you, let's just look at housing. I don't want to spend time, we'll go, but what is the single largest expenditure for a person? Housing. We're not talking rent, we're talking actually buying a physical house, which is an important ingredient for a family. Well, guess what? This is economics 101, supply and demand. If all of a sudden, and Trump is not doing this, because Trump is a CEO, he's a corporate CEO. What if all of a sudden we stopped all immigration? Well, the supply of tenants searching for vacant homes is going to decrease. And the demand for these homes is also going to decrease because the supply is going to decrease. So what's going to happen? All of a sudden, you're going to get vacant apartments, vacant homes, and what's going to happen to the price? It's going to drop. So the point being is if we're going to look at overpopulation, it's not happening in the West, which probably Harvard University probably should have told me that. I was just thinking that it's not. Now, over even China, they say the population's dropped. There's a lot. I mean, Asia as a whole is 50, meaning Asians are doing very well. Africans are doing very well. Muslims are doing very well. And more power to you, go for it. But if we allow them to immigrate legally, again, that's where the MAGA people turn retard. Remember that phrase, don't go retard? The MAGA people are really hard. I'm totally against illegal immigration. Okay, got that. But I'm for legal immigration. All right, what's legal immigration? They're like, they turn retarded. What's legal? I would say is if you stop allowing the non-European people to immigrate to European countries, that is a great way to solve a lot of the demographics in America. Because what will happen? You will return a lot of the leverage of power into the people, supply and demand. So what happens with all the blacks and the Indians? Well, you're doing great. I mean, you're overpopulated, so something must be going well, right? You don't have that. Now, there is true with some countries that are getting so developed, like Japan, they are, but they'll do fine. I would say the problem with this equation is, even if you talk to MAGA people that are really nationalists, even the MAGA people, their number one priority is fighting racism. So this part about saying it's a European nation and let's only allow Europeans to immigrate out, that even from a MAGA person would be like, no, man, that's white supremacist. That's racist. Well, that's your MAGA people. But if you do that, you will shift the power. This comes back to the bubonic plague. It was, well, like I said, one of the best things that would happen to the workers, supply and demand. What would happen? So now if you're a landlord, think of management with multiple units, that could be hurting you. All of a sudden, you're going to get some empty units. You're probably going to have to lower your rental fees, changing the laws. But if you're a renter, that's going to help. And that's going to be across the board. So if you really want to help, like Donald Trump wants to help out the middle-class Americans, but remember, Donald Trump loves a guy like Vivek Ramaswamy, who's pro-legal immigration. One of the best things you can do is stop immigration. Literally stop it. Put an entire moratorium on it. And that would also enhance the population. But in terms of the population, these other non-Western countries, I let them figure it out. Let them figure it out. I mean, we have problems in the West. Let's focus on the West. But the other, they'll figure out their population problems. But again, probably also not a good idea to spend American taxpayer money going to Africa to save African children. They'll save themselves. They'll figure it out. Maybe they're going to learn not to have so many children. Maybe that's it. That's my thing, but it'll work itself out. I see. Let's go to the next one. I'll read the comments here, but let's go to Tucker Carlson here.
I should have 100. This is real. Watch this.
So this is, like I said, this is where I think Donald Trump, in many ways, and you see this a lot too from a human intelligence standpoint, you see people get in that closeted feedback loop where I really think Trump, as the Chinese would say, read the tea leaves when he was running for president. Remember when he went down the escalator, Trump Tower, and he talked about the border, steal the border, Mexico's not sending their best. There's truth in that. And he launched it. He is just deviated. Why? I don't know. I mean, it's almost like the guy's being handled. Now, there is a part of delusion, which is the same delusion you'll hear MAGA people when they said before, MAGA's not splitting. Don't believe in the rumors. MAGA's strong as ever. No, you retard. MAGA is falling apart. It's falling apart. I mean, I'm definitely not MAGA. But anyway, here we go with Tucker Carlson.
But our country right now is doing better than it's ever done. You know, when I see polls on the economy, I should have 150%, not 100%. Oh, yeah. Because we have the greatest. This is the golden age of America. What's being built now in this country has never, ever been built. And we are literally in the golden age of America. And I think people are starting. I actually think people are starting.
We'll see 89 days. So Donald Trump just told us this is the golden age of America. He said when he looks at the economy, he should have 150% approval, not 100. People are starting to see it, he says. Really? We are being dragged toward more wars. We are still shipping billions overseas like it's monopoly money. The cost of living is still crushing regular people, groceries, rent, insurance, everything. And the July jobs numbers just came out. The economy lost tens of thousands of jobs. Not gained, lost, but according to the president, this is the golden age. He should be at 150% approval. This is the classic move. Declare victory while the numbers and the lived reality say something else. Ignore the wars we're being edged into. Ignore the money pouring out of the country. Ignore the fact that a lot of Americans still can't keep up with prices. Just look into the camera and announce that everything is fantastic, and the only problem is the polls haven't caught up to the greatness yet. If this is the golden age, what does a mediocre age look like? What does a bad one look like? People aren't stupid. They know what their paycheck buys. They know when their town feels less stable. They know when their government seems more interested in foreign adventures and self-congratulation than in whether a normal family can afford a house or a week of groceries. Calling it the golden age doesn't make it so. Saying you deserve 150% approval doesn't make the jobs report or the cost of living disappear. It just makes the gap between the rhetoric and the reality look even wider.
Yeah, so Donald Trump is saying big government makes small men. And this whole thing about Donald Trump saying, hey, he's going to reduce the deficit, wars, this war in Iran, it seems to be the budget for military keeps going and going and going. You know where that's going to hit. It's going to hit the U.S. dollar. It's going to hit the middle class. But his excess spending, which was done also by the Democrats too, but Donald Trump, starting a war with Iran and wanting to increase the military budget from 1 trillion to 1.5 trillion, along with other stuff. This is not part of that rhetoric of America first. If you think it is, well, enjoy the higher taxes and the lower U.S. dollar, because that's coming.
Potential ramifications for the U.S. economy. The U.S. national debt has just hit an all-time high of $40 trillion. The national debt is essentially the gap between how much money the United States is bringing in and how much it's spending. Hitting $40 trillion has a lot of potential ramifications for the U.S. economy. It can create a question of confidence in whether or not the country will ever be able to pay this money back, and that could mean higher interest rates and a higher cost of living for Americans. President Trump has promised for a long time that he would be able to eliminate the national debt.
We will start paying that debt down. We're $21 trillion, a number that is, unthinkable.
President Trump also promised to tackle deficits in his second term.
We're close to $36 trillion right now. We're going to work on getting it down.
One of President Trump's big initiatives was the Department of Government Efficiency, which was initially led by Elon Musk and was intended to cut about $1 trillion from the national debt by shrinking government across the board. So far, most of those cuts have not panned out. Another policy that President Trump planned to use to pay down the national debt was tariff revenue. Unfortunately for the Trump administration, the Supreme Court ruled that many of those tariffs were actually illegal, and they had to refund about $160 billion worth of tariffs. Another policy that's increased the national debt this year is the Republican tax cuts that were passed last summer, known as the One Big Beautiful Bill. Those are estimated to cost between $3 and $4 trillion over a 10-year period. So that means that money that would have been scheduled to come in terms of tax revenue is not going to be coming in. The Trump administration makes the argument that these incentives are going to jumpstart economic growth, creating additional tax revenue in the future, but that sort of remains to be seen. The national debt has been going up over many presidencies with Republicans and Democrats in office. Under President Trump, it has been growing at an unusually fast clip and faster than expected. The trajectory that we're going in is going to continue to be higher and higher unless lawmakers decide that they really want to get serious about cutting spending and increasing taxes. And that's always a really difficult thing, particularly when we have midterm elections coming up, and nobody really wants to make promises that American voters are not going to want to hear.
So again, lead by example, leadership. If the U.S. government is not going to pay off the national debt, they're not. Why should you, as a private citizen, pay off your personal debt? It's an interesting question. These are our leaders. They're the best and the brightest in America. Your taxpayer money is paying for them. They're not going to pay off that debt. I think they're going to use in some type of way. It could be crypto. It could be also gold in a way. It'll be somehow refined. We're not going to pay that off. But it goes back to the point. If they're not going to pay off their debt and they're the leaders, why should you pay off your personal debt? It's going to get worse. I'm telling you this, and a lot of Americans are just clueless. Like, yeah, let's go to war with Iran. Let's increase the budget, this and that. But that money, that debt, it's soon. That's why people, when they leave America and they want to have their kids raised in another country, they're going to detach them from the future declining US dollar. But meaning it's the kicking the can down the road. It might be, today's baby boomers, they're not going to suffer from it. But the younger generations in America, they are going to inherit a major problem. That US dollar, it's already happening. This should be shocking news. The US dollar now is not the main reserve currency of central banks. Gold has replaced it. That's not significant to people? I think it is. And why? Because more and more countries around the world are losing faith in the US dollar. Seems common sense to me. I'd be the same way.
Our congressional. The U.S. national debt is expected to hit a record high as soon as this week, crossing a major threshold of $40 trillion. Our congressional correspondent Lisa Desjardins joins us now to explain why that milestone is a warning sign for many economists. Lisa, remind us what this all means and why it all matters.
Right. The U.S. national debt is important to us because it helps drive the engine of our government, but it is also a cornerstone of the world economy. Those sometimes can be good things, but let me explain why this level is now a new red flag. Let's take a look and define terms. We are fast approaching $40 trillion in gross or total national debt. One major problem is that interest alone now costs more than $1.2 trillion a year for U.S. taxpayers. That's according to the Federal Reserve. So we now spend more on interest on it than we do on national defense, and basically more than almost anything else that government does. Rising debt also adds inflationary pressure to the economy. We spoke with Carolyn Bordeaux of the Concord Coalition, and she explained the concern if this red ink line keeps rising.
Eventually we will hit some sort of very serious fiscally induced economic crisis, which means that massive debt we're carrying, we will keep adding to it, and eventually it will cause a very serious economic crisis, and that can take many different forms. Often it takes the form of hyperinflation, high interest rates, really, really serious problems that will be very, very difficult for us to get out of.
And that future is not here yet, so why worry about it so much? Because neither Congress nor the White House is really addressing the core of this problem.
Obviously, all of this has been a long time in the making. Lisa, remind us how we got here in the first place.
Well, part of it have been specific economic crises, but another part has been very distinct crisis of leadership. If you look at the debt for the past 50 years here, you can see where it rocketed up in those two places. One of those was 2009 with the recession, another 2020 with COVID. But you can also see that even as the government flooded the zone to try and rescue the economy there here in recent years, you can see it has risen outside of those economic shocks. And both Republicans and Democrats, we see our two most recent presidents there, have seen the debt rise sharply under their watch. Now, as for Congress, it has repeatedly solved problems. I've sat here and talked about it by just spending more money. And Republicans have continued to cut taxes. All of that sounds great, except we don't have the money to do those things, really, when you look at our debt line. So what's happening right now is a lack of leadership and, honestly, not just financial sobriety, but honesty about the problem.
I mean, $40 trillion is such a huge amount. Yeah. It is almost incomprehensible. How do we begin to get our heads around it?
Right. We thought about this. First, I just want folks to look at the number. Let's look at it. That's 40 with 12 zeros after it. That's what 40 trillion looks like. What does that mean? It's almost impossible. One way you can think of it is if you stacked up $1 bills, we hear this a lot, it would actually go all the way around the sun if it was 40 trillion. Another thing that might not make much sense. So we tried to come up with a more tangible way of expressing this. Let's talk about houses in America. Right now, the average single-family home costs about $400,000. And if you do the simple math here, 100 homes would be $40 million. But then let's zoom out to all of America. That's where you hit $40 trillion. That is more than the worth of every single family home in this country. We have about roughly 90 million single family homes. So if you want to know what $40 trillion is, just look at the houses around you. It is the worth of every single family house in this country.
You mentioned the lack of leadership on this. Is anyone in Congress talking about how to tackle this?
There are some. But by and large, they just talk about their own slice of it, and they're unwilling to compromise over the tough things that they need to do to get us here. One example is the Freedom Caucus in the House. They've been pushing for tighter budgets for years, but they actually did not get the kind of spending cuts that they campaigned on. And also, in truth, they're not willing to give on taxes and revenues. They want revenue cuts. There's a big debate over what tax cuts do. Senator Rand Paul is an example of a senator who's someone who votes against spending bills repeatedly over the national debt, but very few members of Congress actually do. And no one is talking about the big picture like Social Security reform, Medicare. What's more, two of the biggest voices here are leaving Congress this session. That's Republican Congressman Dave Schweikert of Arizona and also Democratic Congressman John Larson of Connecticut. They spent a lot of time talking about Social Security. Carolyn Bordeaux points out that one of the issues here is that not just we have a problem now, but if lawmakers don't deal with it soon, they're going to have to take more and more drastic measures. And we're talking about significant spending cuts, but also potential significant tax increases to actually deal with it. And right now, we just don't see anyone talking about it. One more problem, we're at 40 trillion, but we're now just a few years away from 50 trillion in national debt as well.
It's another staggering figure, at least.
So again, what we're looking at is look at the trends and then ask yourself, is anything going to change? And I mentioned this before about technology and globalization seems to be unstoppable. This debt, which is responsible for both the Democrats and the Republicans, is there anything? And I think some people put their hopes on Donald Trump saying, I think he'll be different. And I said this too. I thought, I think this guy could be different. He had a different. Has he been different? Not so much. I mean, this guy is just printing out the wazoo in terms of US dollars and spending. So this trend has been happening for decades upon decades of decades. Is it going to stop? Are we going to pay it off? There's going to be some type of transition. I do think it's going to be some type of crypto. And I've always said this too. Same thing with the stock markets. And that is most Americans, it's like 80%, they don't really own assets. So the point is when this debt gets refinanced, redistributed, or just altered in a different asset class, most Americans that live paycheck to paycheck, they're going to get swamped. Meaning the US dollar is going to be inflated. But those who have assets, even you go back to the Great Depression, most people don't know. It was during the Great Depression where many people got wiped out. That was why it was called the Great Depression. Those who had the right assets, some of the biggest fortunes were made. But what I'm trying to say is when this debt gets refinanced, the typical average American, I think they're going to get absolutely slammed. But there's going to be those, probably Donald Trump, those at the higher end, they're going to come out like the corporate seniority that they are. They're going to make a lot of money. But either way, what's the trend? Is it going to be stopped or altered? Not really. I think it's unstoppable. They're going to continue to do it. Donald Trump, this debt will continue to rise. We are not paying off this debt. So there's going to be another mechanism. I think it's going to be crypto. That's going to be interesting. Talk about a wild west of who exactly is going to win or lose on that. But Donald Trump and his family are huge crypto fans, launch his own shitcoin. So we'll see about that. But this debt will not be paid off. That's for sure.
The 3.5 billion of the world's 85 richest people.
This is what I want to do on this video right here. And that is, we keep talking about capitalism, right? This system that we have in America is no longer capitalism. If you want to call it capitalism, that's fine. But if this system continues to put money in the top 1%, this system will fall. And I believe there's no change on that. But you'll see a lot of these heavy capitalists, they love it. They're million. Most of these people never served in the military. And they're so patriotic. I wonder if a war came, would they volunteer their children for the draft? Well, Donald Trump's a great example. He didn't go and his kids aren't going to go. But these are just hardcore patriotic capitalists. I call it bullshit, but here we go. Let's talk about it.
Is equal to the 3.5 billion poorest people.
It's fantastic. And this is a great thing.
So it focuses on, let's do this again. He thinks it's fantastic. Well, we'll see again.
The world's 85 richest people is equal to the 3.5 billion poorest people.
It's fantastic.
So again, here's my theory. If that's fantastic, then if that wealth gets concentrated from 85 to 10, Would it be more fantastic? Perhaps to his level. And if it got concentrated from 10 to 1, would it be even more fantastic? So what I'm trying to say is, what is so fantastic about wealth becoming more and more accumulated in the top 1%? I'm telling you, Leadership 101, that's a recipe for a revolution. But the capitalists think it's just dandy. We'll see how it works.
And this is a great thing because it inspires everybody, gets the motivation to look up to the 1% and say, I want to become one of those people. I'm going to fight hard to get up to the top. This is fantastic.
Soon, it won't be the 1%. It will be the 0.1%. Then it'll be the 0.01%. And he thinks it's just dandy. This is a guy, and I believe he's Canadian. Now I guess he's an American. Never served in the military. So if he thinks this system is so great, I wonder if he's willing to die for it. He also talks negative about China. Now, again, I'm not saying everything about China, but China's system, I would say, is more fascism, National Socialism. And I always say this: if America has the superior political ideology, the system, our system is superior to China, then why are we nervous about China? How is China able to grow and get stronger? And it's not just China, it's these other countries. But if we have the superior political system, then we're not going to collapse. We're not going to go to revolution. We're not going to go to civil war. And Americans would probably not want to leave America if we have the superior political system. Let's see where this system goes.
Fantastic news, and of course I applaud it. What can be wrong with this?
Really?
Yes, really.
So somebody living on
I celebrate capitalism.
$1 a day in Africa is getting up in the morning and saying, I'm going to be.
Well, see, this is where people confuse me. I told you I had this talk with the Iranian woman in Hong Kong. I'm not now doing a bleeding heart for the people in Africa or China. Let them figure it out. They can do that. I'm talking about American citizens, okay? So no, I'm not saying about, let's focus on America first. And I think the best thing we could do for these other countries is maybe stop bombing the shit out of them. Maybe we'll do that. But let's focus on American workers. And instead of using the example of the guy in Africa making $1, again, I'm not an African expert. I would say let them figure out their own problems. I would say instead of the guy in Africa making $1, maybe the American dude working in McDonald's, I don't know what the minimum wage is, making that money, and then say, how can you calculate a way for him to have a wife and children and a house? Meaning the labor, the economics, the salaries, the financial conditions just in America is getting harder and harder. I don't know why now we're going to Africa. It's the same thing as people. Everyone can. How about we start with American military veterans caring about? But this is where there's also a different tangent with the liberals. They're also saying like, yeah, David, I like you. You're against all these capitalists. Let's be communists and let's save the world. No, let Africa save Africa. Hey, look at China. They're doing a pretty good job. They don't need our help. Let the Chinese figure it out. I would say spend more our time, money, and effort thinking about who. Well, if you're an American, maybe Americans. Maybe care about that homeless American military veteran who's homeless on the street than the guy in Africa. And my view of the people in Africa is, yeah, do your thing. You'll figure it out. It'll work. Look at the Chinese. It'll work. So there's that liberal take on that about what about the person. I don't know. I'm an American. Let's talk about the American middle class that's getting wiped out. How about that? You know, this woman cares so much about Africa. Let's ship her to Africa and see how much she likes Africa. It's sort of this lip service. I mean, do I care that much about Africa? This is what I keep saying. I know I'm doing a tangent. When people say, do you support Israel? Do you support Palestine? Do you support Taiwan? Do you support Beijing? Do you support Russia? Do you support Ukraine? Fuck them all. I mean, I think the typical American is like, it is time to worry about America. It is time to keep American money in America. It is time to focus on America first. I thought that was the whole thing. But I think this thing about what is the worker in Africa doing that, where did that come from, sweetheart? Are we in America? Shouldn't we talk about American issues first?
Bill Gates.
That's the motivation everybody needs.
Between me and
I'm
that
not
guy
against
is
charity.
motivation. I just need to pull up my socks.
I am
oh
not,
wait, I don't have socks.
Look, don't tell me that you want to redistribute wealth again. That's never going to happen. Okay?
You know what? You take a simple stat like this, which is neither good nor bad. It's just a fact.
It's a celebratory stat. I'm very excited about it. I'm wonderful to see it happen. I tell kids every day, if you...
And again, I don't want to do, we'll do it again. The problem is I grew up in America where I believe that if you're rich, it means that you're smarter than me, you're a harder worker than me, and you take higher risks than me. Therefore, you deserve to be rewarded better than me. That would have been old school capitalism. The difference now, this system's corrupt. This system's corrupt. So I don't believe now that you have become rich because you're so smart, you're so hard work. No. The fusion of capitalism, meaning corporations, into our government now with funding and whatever, to include when I worked for both the Boeing Corporation and Amazon, which are so infused in our government, meaning your tax money's funding them. I don't believe it anymore. So it's hard now to defend the rich, whereas now more and more people believe that they're not rich because of their capabilities. They believe they're there. Nepotism, corruption. It's just the collusion of the government and the corporations. It's not going to work. Let's keep it. Let's see how this system evolves.
What's wrong with this?
Comes up at a cocktail party.
No, Amanda, what's wrong with this statement?
What possible response
if you work hard, you might be stinking rich.
We're talking about people in extreme.
So here we come again. Work hard. I don't believe so. And now I knew that about Donald Trump. I knew Donald Trump as a billionaire. He broke the law there and then, maybe a lot, cheated on his taxes. I kind of knew that he was coming with a lot of dirt. But I think a lot of times is as long as he can solve the problem, he's not solving the problem now. It's the same way. So the same thing with Donald Trump. We're viewing these rich capitalists, for lack of a better word, in America. I call them corporate capitalists, crony capitalism, global capitalists, as again, less of they're rich, I'm poor, because they're smarter, hardworking, and risk-taking. Don't believe it anymore. I believe the system is corrupt. Anyway, we'll go to the last video. And what's the last video saying? It says you should be lucky you're an American. And who's this coming from? Fox News. Fox News just loves American. They seem to forget American military veterans, though. I should have done a video on it, but notice the U.S. sailors, and I could go both ways, but the issues with the USS Lincoln, all of a sudden Fox News was doing videos on the military sailors there saying, hey, basically, shut up, shut your mouth, stop complaining, and do your fucking job. It's your job to die for America. Most of these, and of course, Fox News had to get a military veteran on there. He's the guy, I think, Joey Jones, who lost his leg. So they need a guy. Most of these Fox News people never served in the military. But I've already said that now, this whole thing about we thank military veterans for their service, it's just a joke. It's okay. It's just to say, I don't thank military veterans. You never served me. It's okay. Let it out. I'm telling you, you'll become a better person. But Fox News does all this bullshit, military veterans, and then the USS Lincoln. And I'm telling you, there are problems in our military. There's going to be mutinies. Now, all of a sudden, they're turning on our soldiers and saying, hey, you're making the president look bad. Shut your goddamn mouth and stop complaining. Do your job. And if you die, you die. Easy to say when you're a Fox News host who never served in the military and you're making tons of money. In fact, these people are nothing but actors. So here's a special message from Fox News saying how lucky you are to be an American. This is the closing video.
It's so much to be. We're already winners if we're born in America. Mm-hmm. We have already won. We have so much to be thankful for to be American.
Well, I could say this, generally speaking, if you're a woman, if you're a racial minority, and you're an immigrant, it's pretty good. There's no doubt about it. It's hard to beat it. If you're a white guy, I don't think we're that lucky. If George Washington looked at us, he'd say, this country's about to fall. But anyway, from her standpoint, yeah, white women, who are the most spoiled women on the planet? White woman. Take it from a white guy living in Asia. I'm telling you, I still like white women's DNA, but are they the most spoiled women on the planet? By far, by far. And who spoiled them? Weak, cuck white men. Weak, cuck white men spoiled them.
Americans, because we have freedom, and we
Oh, sure. Yeah. A lot of freedom. A lot of freedom. Thanks.
we live in this amazing republic where you can choose where you want to go to church. You can choose
Well, you don't have much options if you don't have much money.
what you want to say. But with that,
I would be very cautious on freedom of speech now. You better be very careful what you have to say. I'd like to know why I'm on the FBI terrorist watch list. I think that's a very important question. I think the American public also wants to know why.
there is a great responsibility. And these individuals like Hassan Piker, I mean, he grew up in Istanbul. His parents, I think he was born in New Jersey, grew up in Istanbul, came back to study politics in America, and now has.
Now, hold on. Fox News also loves diversity. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Is this guy Turk? I don't know this guy she mentioned, but I believe America belongs to European people, to the Native Americans. I got it. That it was a genocide against you. And there's a little bit of another episode I could talk about you. So I do believe this country belongs to Europeans. But when it comes to Fox News about legal immigration, basically, if you could just provide economic status to America, they love it. But now all of a sudden, he's from Istanbul, he's Turkish. No, I've never heard that about Fox News. Basically, as long as you're rich or you provide economically, you're welcome. Now it seems Fox News is into his nationality or his race.
This platform, and 10 million people are listening to him across all of his platforms, and he has a big voice, and it's really resonating, but it's very scary. What did Ronald Reagan say? We're one generation away from extinction.
100%.
We are.
Interesting. We're going to play that again. That video right there, because you got to remember, this is Fox News. It's more like CNN. This is the creme de la creme of Republicans right here. I mean, this is the voice of the White House in some ways. First, you got this spoiled white woman, never served in the military. She has been spoiled. White women leaving America, usually if they leave America, they go to Europe. You know, they're going to another white country. But she's like, man, we got the best country ever. Yeah, maybe because military veterans that you probably want to thank, even though you degraded the USS Lincoln sailors. That's another story. Now she's talking about this other guy. I don't know what this other guy's saying. I guess he's a Democrat spokesman or something like that, whatever that is. But he's from Istanbul, Turkey. Now, if she's a nationalist, I'm for that. America should belong to the Europeans. But that's not MAGA. MAGA doesn't care what race you are, wherever you come from, as long as you can add economic value to America. So, and then she's talking about this guy's got a big platform. I guess they're pissed off they couldn't censor him like they've censored me. Interesting. And what's wrong? And then she talks about we're one generation away. Remember what I said when I left America in 2010? I started saying this place is going to go to a revolution. It sounded so crazy to the people I talked about. Now you got Fox News. What's happening now? Remember I talked about Israel, how when I was in the intelligence community, it was very ambiguous and most Americans had no clue. I think now the Israeli, this was the last video I did, I think it's become mainstream now that as long as you're an average educated American man, you're scratching your head. You're like, this is a weird relationship with Israel. Why do they have so much influence on us? Guess what? I also believe it is now going to soon be mainstream where people are going to talk about more like, I think that there could be a collapse. I think there could be a revolution. I think there could be a civil war. Now, I don't know who this guy is, but I don't know. He's got a platform of 10 million people, which is a big platform. What's he talking about? Revolution coming our way? It's going to happen. You're going to see it. Here we go. Last time, Fox News. This is Fox News talking about. I'm telling you, the people at the top are going to get more and more nervous. And when they happen, the hammer is coming down. I think America is going to go to fascism. I don't have a problem with fascism. It just depends on who is this person in power and what is their ideology. And what's their ideology in power? It's probably something with the corporations, probably something with Israel. That's not who, whereas fascism in China, who is it from? It's from Chinese people. Tell you, the Chinese government, I know it. You're in China, you're kind of like a second-class citizen, but if you're a white guy, you get some special VIP treatment. But I am not, I'm an outsider. In China, the Chinese people come first, believe it or not. If this fascism realm comes in, what is this ideology? kind of like some type of corporate capitalism coming our way. Anyway, let's go one more thing. Let's hear from Fox News how lucky you are. This is coming from a woman. How much money do you think this woman makes for working at Fox News? I have no idea. Hundreds upon hundreds of $1,000s a year. I would not be surprised if her salary is $300,000, could be $1 million a year. So she's a white woman who's very, very affluent. And she makes her job just talking here, never serving the military or anything. And she wants to tell you how lucky you are. And she also wants to say this guy from Turkey, which they might have critiqued her. They said, hey, stop talking about Turkey. We're Republicans. As long as people are rich, we like them. We're more worried about this guy saying stuff that's anti-capitalism. And we're kind of worried because remember, it doesn't matter how much money you have. If the system is threatened, well, guess what? There's a chance you can lose all that money. So guess what? That's where they're going to really double down to protect their wealth. And they'll do whatever measures it will be to protect their wealth, meaning martial law, declaring a state of national emergency. Oh, it'll come that way. I have no doubt about it. Let's hear from Fox News. These are our masters. These are the actors telling us what our lives are like.
We're already winners if we're born in America. Mm-hmm. We have already won. We have so much to be thankful for to be Americans because we have.
Maybe try thanking military veterans to start out with.
Freedom. And we live in this amazing republic where you can choose where you want to go to church. You can choose what you want to say. But with that, there is a great responsibility. And these individuals like Hassan Piker, I mean, he grew up in Istanbul. His parents, I think he was born in New Jersey, grew up in Istanbul, came back to study politics in America, and now has this platform. And 10 million people are listening to him across all of his platforms. And he has a big voice. And it's really resonating, but it's very scary. What did Ronald Reagan say? We're one generation away from extinction. 100%.
Notice how she said it's really scary. What's scary about it? Is it the truth or not? Meaning usually the truth will resonate unless you're censored. You know, the powers that be will censor the truth. So I would say there must be something that is resonating for them. Maybe he's telling the truth. And maybe Fox News wants to censor him. Maybe that. I don't know what he said, but I am saying that I've said this before. You are seeing, and I've said this many times, I would be considered the far right, even though my ideology in the non-Western world is not far right. It's just normal. And my ideology, if you go to America 100 years ago or more, is also normal. So it's pretty interesting. So meaning, where is the political shift happening in the West? It continues to go toward the left. Anyway, even though, like I said, many times people confuse the left and the right, and that's my point. What you'll find is the political ideology of the far right, the far left, the right, the this, the that, and this, it can all seemingly more and more come together. Why? That's what happens when you have a common enemy. Now, some people will say, well, the common enemy is Israel and the Jews. All right, I'm not going to necessarily disagree with that, but I would say, factually speaking, follow the money, which could also be from Israel. Again, but this 1%, these corporations, these global corporations, that are continuing to have 1% of the wealth, not 1% of the wealth, meaning the 1% controlling the majority of the wealth, that is a natural element that will naturally unite people. That I look to people with different ideologies, we'll say the liberals, whatever. I'm going to agree with a lot what they say, but the enemy of our enemy, and we can unite because I'm telling you. So maybe what's happening is this person from Istanbul, my guess is his rhetoric is probably something on par of what's destroying America is this top 1%. You hear that from me all the time too. There's sort of this globalist entity in the government, in the corporations, these ultra rich. And again, it doesn't matter how much they want to preach, how much freedoms you have, which I believe are dwindling. Privacy is dwindling. If your economic plight gets worse and worse and worse, well, then you're not going to have many options. And options are a form of freedom. So economic prosperity and freedom go hand in hand. Your freedom to have a family, your freedom to have a car, freedom to have a house, freedom to live an enjoyable life. When you don't have money, you're not going to have many options. And options are a synonym for freedom. So I think that's probably what's resonating with a lot of people, that's going from both sort of aisles where they're saying the same thing and they're pointing to a common enemy. You know, in my book, I labeled it the globalist corporations and the globalist government. It's sort of on there. It's like these 1%, and it's becoming concentrated more and more. It's not going to work. It's not going to work any more and more. All right, so the name is Hassim 1%. We'll read that. Anyway, I appreciate your time. David Baumblatt from Terrapin to Leadership, telling the people, I'm telling you, this situation in America, it's not going to change. It's not going to get better. Trump's been in office now 1 term. He's pretty much halfway through his 2nd term. Rumors he's going to do a 3rd term. Who knows? You think J.D. Vance is going to do better? Think Marco Rubio is going to save the day? Or no? Let's be the typical dumb American and say, I was into the Republicans, but now I'm going to go with the Democrats because Gavin Newsom, he'll solve it. AOC, oh yeah, keep that up. Keep voting. So is anything going to get better? Don't think so. It's going to get worse and worse and worse. And in that medium time where it gets worse and worse and worse, where you even look at the typical dumb American who's like, we're going to solve this through voting. What do other Americans do? Like me, they give up. They're like, I'm out of here. And more and more Americans are out. Why? Because no matter what Americans say, at the end of the day, their solution to the problem is the same thing we've been doing for decades. Pay your taxes and vote. It's not been working, but people still believe it'll work. All right, well, that's actually the definition of crazy, doing the same thing over and over and again, believing it's going to fix the problem, and it probably won't. But until then, to the Patriots, prepare yourselves. It's going to get worse. Until then, lead to victory.